Prior to going into court, I filed for special accommodations for Americans with disabilities. I was approved my special accommodations request, and within that request, I'd asked if I should bring my laptop, monitor, etc., so that my case could be presented in PowerPoint, and the judge, in his reply, said that it was not necessary for me to bring any of my special accommodations equipment because the court would have everything that I needed. Therefore, I brought nothing except my flash drive and a few printouts. When I arrived, the judge himself discovered that a laptop was needed to run the presentation, and they did not have one, could not locate one. At that point, he asked if I wanted a postponement, and I declined to have a postponement because it had already been 4 months, and 4 months of which I didn't even know that domestic violence cases could be continued. And I was just too emotionally fatigued, and just, that's such an understatement. It was a tremendous strain on me, those 4 months, and going further, looking at the possibility of another 4 months or perhaps even longer, most likely longer, because it's now the middle of the year and cases, the court calendar is really packed. It could have been a year for all I know, but the bottom line is I chose not to do that. I chose to be heard that day, despite that I did not have the equipment that I needed to be heard. Since I lacked that equipment, which was also my evidence, the judge said that without that, he had nothing to go on except credibility. That's exactly what he boiled down the case to, credibility. He said that because he had nothing else to go on, he had to look at who did he believe. He said that he had absolutely no reason to disbelieve me. However, he also had no reason to disbelieve Walter. So the only way that he could separate it was to say that the burden of proof fell on me. That was the deciding factor. And that is why he said that he denied the case. In fact, he said he had no choice but to deny it under those circumstances. Those were his words, I believe. He also said to me that if ever I felt threatened by Walter, or going forward in the future, if I ever felt the need to file again, to not hesitate to do so, to contact his court immediately, he said. So that actually made me feel a little bit better about not having won the petition for long cause. It doesn't protect me, but neither does a piece of paper, really. What it does do, however, is lets local law enforcement know that there is a need for protection, so that if they're called for something, they know, okay, there's history here. And for that reason, I'm actually still very glad that I followed through, because as I said earlier, a lot of women, they don't, and had I not followed through, I wouldn't have had it. So my going and my making the decision to proceed even without the special accommodations, I still had a chance. And rather than just take a no, or rather than just simply give up, I chose to stand up and fight. That's what I did. And so I am very glad that I did that because it lets Walter Bateman know that it is not acceptable for you to abuse me. I told him that when he was actually doing the abuses. And, but this more emphatically says that everybody is not going to allow this to happen. So at some point, Walter will either get help and not abuse, or he will continue to abuse, and eventually the law will catch up with him.